Friends, I believe that it's spring within me. I feel that spring is awakening. I feel it in my whole body and soul. It's just an effort to behave normally. I feel utterly confused. I don't know what to read, what to write, what to do. I only know that I have this longing. Dear Kitty, well, things have improved slightly in the second half of the year. I'm being treated more like a grown-up. I've started to think for myself, and I've started to write stories. And I've discovered something else, which is my longing not for a girlfriend, but for a boyfriend. I wonder if Peter still regards me as just a friend and nothing more. In the evening, when I lie in bed saying my prayers, sometimes I think about the goodness of going into hiding, about my health, about love, the future, the beauty that still remains in the world. This is one of the main things that Mommy and I are so terribly different about. My mother's counsel when I feel terrible or melancholy is, think of all the misery in the world and be thankful that you're not sharing in it. Well, my advice is, go outside. Recapture happiness in yourself and in God. Think of all the beauty that's still left and be happy. Dear Kitty, is there anything more beautiful in the whole world than to sit before an open window and enjoy nature? To listen to the birds singing, to feel the sun on your cheeks, and have a darling boy in your arms? Bad news. The people from whom we got our ration books have been arrested, so we've had to cut down on our food again. Our stomachs are so empty that they rumble and make these strange noises, all in different keys. Mr. Van Dam's is deep and low, like a bass fiddle. Mine is high, whistling like a flute. When we sit around waiting for supper, we sound like an orchestra tuning up. It only needs Toscanini to raise his baton and we'd be off on the ride of the Valkyries. You know, all we dream and talk about is food. Can you imagine? Me, the daughter of a millionaire. Dear Kitty, for a long time, I haven't had any idea of what I was working for anymore. The end of the war seems so terribly far away. It's unreal, like a fairy tale. But today, I realized something. I must work so as not to be a fool, to get on, to become a journalist, maybe a famous writer. I can't imagine that I would have to lead the same sort of life as Mommy and Mrs. Van Dam and all the women who do their work and are then forgotten. I have to have something besides a husband and children, something that I can devote myself to. I can shake off everything if I write. My sorrows disappear, my courage is reborn. Therefore, I am so grateful to God for giving me this gift, this possibility of developing myself, of writing and expressing all that's in me. But will I ever be able to write anything great? I hope so very much, because I want to go on living even after my death. Dear Kitty, we often ask ourselves here, what is the use of the war? Why can't people live peacefully together? Why all this destruction? Yes, no one has ever found a satisfactory answer to this so far. Why do they make still more gigantic planes, still heavier bombs, and at the same time prefabricated houses for reconstruction? Why should millions be spent daily on the war, and yet there's not a penny available for medical services, for artists, for poor people? Why do some people have to starve when there are surpluses rotting in other parts of the world? Why are people so crazy? We have been pointedly reminded in hiding that we are Jews in chains, chained to one spot, without any rights. We Jews mustn't show our feelings. We must be brave and strong, We must accept all inconveniences, not grumble, and yet still keep our faith in God. Sometime, this terrible war will be over. Surely the time will come when we're people again, and not just Jews. Who has inflicted this upon us? Who has made us Jews different from all other people? Who has allowed us to suffer so terribly up until now? It is God that has made us as we are. But it will be God, too, who will raise us up again. You know, perhaps, if we bear all this suffering, and if there are still Jews left when it's over, and maybe Jews, instead of being doomed, will be held up as an example. Who knows? It might even be our religion from which the world and all peoples learn good. So I must be brave and keep faith. I simply can't build up my hopes on a foundation consisting of confusion, misery, and death. I see the world gradually being turned into a wilderness. I hear the ever-approaching thunder, which may destroy us too. I hear and feel the suffering voices of millions. And yet, if I look up into the heavens, I think that it will all come out right. That maybe the world is going through a kind of a phase, an adolescence, like I was with Mother. And I feel that this cruelty will end, that peace and tranquility will return. I keep my ideals because in spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. Anna Frank and her family and companions were arrested soon after she wrote this. They were separated and taken to Poland. Her father was taken to Auschwitz. Anna to Belsen concentration camp, where she died of an illness just 3 months before the war ended. But her dream does live on, because through her diary, she goes on living even after her death. If she had lived, tomorrow would be her 58th birthday. I feel that she is with us, and I wish her a very happy birthday.
After such a beautiful reading, it's not easy to continue. It is my special privilege to introduce to you other honored guests who appeared in the film and Broadway productions of the Diary of Anne Frank. As I call the names, I appreciate the people who stand out. Diane Baker, who played Anne's sister Margaret. Lou Jacobi portrayed Mr. Van Damme in the film on Broadway. Francis Latimer, who played Anne's father, Otto Frank, in the National Theatre tour. And Peter Levitt and Howard Marcolin, both who played the Van Damme sons, on Broadway. I'd also like you to join me in greeting Mrs. Leonora Schildkraut, widow of Joseph Schildkraut, who portrayed Mr. Frank in both the film and on the Broadway play. I was just told she had to leave. Yes. And now I would like to introduce to you Mr. Tom Osborne, director of the Anne Frank Center in New York.
Thank you very much. At the opening of the exhibition Anne Frank in the World in New York in June 12th of 1985, Professor Elie Wiesel asked the question, why do we remember and